ready to start? Hi, my name is Morris Pearl. I'm a former managing director at BlackRock and the chair of the board of the Patriotic Millionaires. We are a group of hundreds of wealthy Americans, business leaders and investors united in our concerns about historic levels of inequality and the destabilizing levels of wealth and power in America. I'm joined by Dr. Abigail Disney and a few dozen other members of Patriotic Millionaires here today with one request for America's lawmakers in there: tax us. We want to pay higher taxes, and everyone else wants us to pay higher taxes as well. I've got here in my hands a petition signed by 50,000 Americans asking for Congress to raise our taxes. And just as we saw international organization of Oz release a similar call to the G20 with over 500,000 signatures collected in just a few days. The Patriotic Millionaires and all these people know that our economy is rigged and want to change. But how do you rig an economy? You start with the tax code, of course. The architects of the Reagan Revolution understood this, which is why the revolution went in reverse. The rich overthrew the poor and the middle class. With the Economic Recovery Tax Act of 1981, they made tax policy that not only ensured the fruits of this economy flowed largely in their direction, they launched a movement lasting through 6 presidencies that heaped tax breaks after tax break on just the wealthiest Americans. For nearly a half century now, tax policies that benefit the rich and only the rich have been sold to the American public on the ludicrous notion that doing so would create jobs and spur growth, and eventually the benefits would trickle down. They have not trickled down. Cutting taxes on the rich increases inequality and does not do any good for anyone else. They rig the economy, and America is paying the price. So, Abby, how do you unrig the economy?
Here you go. How do we unrig the economy? Thank you, Mo. Well, is it on? Is this mic on? Okay. Sorry. There you go. So my answer is the same as Mo's. You start with the tax code. It's time to enact a new tax code that drives the benefits of the economy directly into the pockets of working people and requires those who've benefited the most from America's economic structure to recycle a significant portion of that benefit back into our society rather than allowing them to amass fortunes so large that they threaten our democracy. This requires not just unwinding the mistakes of the past 43 years, but going much further to reset our tax framework to one that will preserve and strengthen American democratic capitalism. The Patriotic Millionaires are here to offer 3 core principles for that tax framework. 1, treat all income over $1 million in the same manner, whether it's generated from ordinary income or capital gains or inheritance. 2, make our income tax code truly progressive. That means raising the standard deduction to charge nothing to people who don't even make a living wage, and it means imposing significantly higher marginal tax rates on extremely high incomes. My grandfather paid a 90% marginal tax rate on his income, and he amassed plenty of wealth in the process. That means rates of up to 90% on incomes over $100 million. And the third is pass a tax specifically designed to rein in wealth concentration, a wealth tax on the richest people in America. If we can do these 3 things, we can save America. And if we don't, we won't. It's just that simple. Thankfully, we are joined today by some of the most outspoken champions of tax fairness in a Congress who are committed to making our tax code work for everyone, not just me and other rich people. First up, we have Representative Jimmy Gomez from California's 34th Congressional District and the lead sponsor in the House for the Fair for the 99.5% Act. Congressman Gomez.
Good morning. First, let me thank the Patriotic Millionaires for putting this event together, and welcome to Tax Day, one of the most segregated, most unequal, and one of the most unjust days of the year in America. Not not on race, but by wealth and privilege, where we see the difference between the haves and the have-nots, those who are struggling versus those who have exorbitant amounts of wealth. Those where a secretary will pay more in taxes than their billionaire boss. That is fundamentally un-American, unfair, and unjust. And that's not because of something inherent in individuals. This was made by decisions of lawmakers over the decades. And the latest was the Trump tax cuts that gave the 60% of all the benefits of their tax cuts to the top 0.1% in this country, making the income inequality even worse. And that is something we know that we can make a difference. That's why Senator Sanders and I have partnered to introduce the 99.5% Act, legislation to ensure that the wealthiest 0.5% of Americans pay their fair share in taxes. The 50 wealthiest individuals in our country right now own more wealth than the poorest half of all Americans combined. And the poorest 40% of Americans have hardly any savings at all and are disproportionately Latinos and African Americans. This is wrong and leading to an erosion of the American dream. This is something that causes people to question, the fundamental nature of America. The idea that if you work hard, you follow the rules, that you will do better than your parents, and then your kids and the next generation will do better than you. A key factor in this explosion of wealth inequality is the gutting of the estate tax. Since 2009, the portion of estates exempt from the tax has tripled to nearly $12 million per person. The rich get richer, and the working Americans are getting left behind. Under this legislation, the 99.5% of Americans would not owe a penny more in taxes. Even my brother, who asked if this would impact him, he's a school teacher. No, if you're a school teacher, you're not going to be impacted. However, the families of all 735 billionaires in America who have a combined net worth of more than $4.5 trillion will owe up to $1 trillion more in additional estate taxes. My legislation, for the 99.5% Act, imposes a 45% tax rate on estates worth more than $3.5 million and a 65% tax rate on the value of an estate worth more than $1 billion. This isn't new. From 1941 to 1976, the top estate tax rate was 77% on estates worth more than $50 million. In contrast to my bill, the Republicans want to punish the poor, grow income inequality, and they want to make it easier for the rich to hide their wealth and not pay their fair share in taxes. And even so much, if you look at their budget, what do they want to do? They want to cut the social safety net programs that seniors, the disabled, students, and the working class rely on. And then they want to say, you're not working hard enough, so here's some work requirements on top of that. So that is the difference between us and the Republicans. Our bill will help narrow the wealth gap and raise much-needed revenue for investment and the benefits that help working families and our constituents who aren't on the line to inherit fortune. So I'm proud to partner with Senator Sanders on this legislation to uplift Americans' working class. What we're proposing and what these patriotic millionaires are here to say is that there should be taxed more, and those taxes should be used to create a more just, fair, and wealthy society for everyone, not just the fortunate few. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Greg Kazar of Texas.
Thank you, Patriotic Millionaires, and thank you, Congressman Gomez, for your bill. I'm proud to be co-sponsor alongside you and the senator. My name is Greg Kazar, and I represent the heart of Texas. And I just finished my first 100 days as a U.S. Congressman. Yeah. And I've gotten a lot of questions about what it's been like. And those first 100 days were all a build-up and all about this 101st day, tax day. And I'll give it to you, tell you why in 3 examples. A lot of folks ask me, what was all that speaker vote commotion about? Well, clearly what it was about was a few extreme right-wing members taking over this building, all in order to hold the U.S. economy hostage over what they call the debt ceiling, what we should really just call paying our bills. Holding a few members being able to hold not just the speaker hostage, but the entire economy hostage. Over what? They were given the keys to the car, and they're threatening to crash the car into the global economy if we don't cut food stamps for families and seniors, if we don't cut public housing programs, if we don't cut programs for our old and our sick and our poor in order to help their corporate friends. That's what that was all about. 2, folks said, well, what have they been up to? What have the new Republican leadership been up to? Are they working on crime or inflation, all that stuff they talked about? No. The very first bill that they proposed was to cut auditors in the federal government that were going to go after billionaire tax cheats. Their very first bill was to protect tax havens for billionaires and mega corporations. That shows what their priority number 1 is. And third, folks, of course, always ask, what's up with all the attention to Marjorie Taylor Greene and other folks that are spilling hate in these committee meetings and these hallways every single day? And again, it is part of a strategy to demonize the most vulnerable among us, even pick on school kids that are having a tough time, to pick on immigrants, people of color, in order to distract from what we really should be doing in this building, which is closing the historic inequality we're facing, standing up for working people. And what they're trying to do is distract from the fact that while our communities suffered and our family members died in this pandemic, a small number of super billionaires raked in enormous profits. That's what they're trying to distract from. That's what these first 100 days were about. That's what this 101st tax day is about. And what we are about is making that kind of a change by finally having a fair tax system in America. It is clear to me, also coming from Texas, that the vast majority of Texans agree with this kind of agenda. We have more uninsured people in Texas than anywhere else in the country. We have more people making $7.25 an hour in Texas than anywhere else in the country. We have rapidly rising rents. We have more food insecure kids in Texas than anywhere in the country. And even though we are a state with statewide Republican officials, whether you're talking to people that vote, don't vote, consider themselves left, consider themselves right, consider themselves disengaged, no matter where I am, no matter which town hall I'm in, everyone in Texas can agree that billionaires at mega corporations should finally start paying their fair share. The only folks who don't seem to come around are the corporate stooges that run this building. And it is up to us to finally make that kind of change. I became an elected official after being a workers' rights organizer. I organized alongside immigrant construction workers who would work all day in the sun, oftentimes be denied a water break, and sometimes not be paid at all. And we stood up to some of the biggest corporations in the state and in the country. And folks said we would never get there, we would never win. And I saw how immigrant workers, oftentimes undocumented, were able to tackle enormous odds and do the things that we saw were impossible. And so in this building, alongside people from across the country and alongside my colleagues, I know we can do it too. Thank you all very much.
Next, we have the sponsor of the Ultra Millionaire Act from the Progressive Caucus and the state of Washington, Pramila Jayapal.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Morris. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Patriotic Millionaires, for showing us what it means to be patriotic, what it means to actually want what is best for your country and best for your community, what it means to be wealthy and to say that I haven't paid my fair share and I want to. That is a really important thing that is happening today on tax day. Now, we have seen over and over again the need to reform our system, our tax system, in every way possible. And we have seen how urgent it is. We've seen year after year since the start of the pandemic, billionaires' personal wealth boom and corporations post record profits while workers, every single day, workers who are working 2 and 3 jobs are just barely surviving. The richest 1% of Americans own more than 30% of our country's wealth. Compare that to the entire bottom half of society owning just barely over 2% of the wealth. And we know that this is also a matter of racial justice. That is the reality. The wealth gap is particularly staggering for Black and brown families. White families have an average wealth that is more than 14 times as much as Black families. But this issue is about so much more than just percentages and figures. It's about people and it's about families. It's about billionaires owning super yachts and Rolexes while hardworking people are struggling to afford their rent or going to sleep hungry. It doesn't have to be the case. We can actually change this. We have proven with the child tax credit, with survival checks, with so many provisions of the American Rescue Plan that poverty is a bad policy choice. It is a choice, and we can make different choices. That is the good news. My Ultra Millionaire Tax Act, which I'm proud to lead with my friend Senator Elizabeth Warren, would narrow the racial wealth gap, help level the playing field, and ensure that the wealthiest among us finally pay their fair share. It would make a meaningful difference and show that government can be the great equalizer of opportunity in our country. It does this, and it invests trillions of dollars in our communities, all while ensuring that anyone with a net worth that is under $50 million doesn't pay a single cent more come tax day. We like to say, if any of you earn $50 million, don't worry, you're free and clear. You don't have to worry about anything. You're not going to pay a cent more. But if you do earn over $50 million, then you pay a simple fee on that. And by the way, if you get to $100 million, then you pay an additional cent. That's not too bad, right? It's a very small number of people, just 2 to 3 cents of a dollar for the richest of the rich in this country, and it would generate over $3 trillion over 10 years. And it includes major anti-evasion measures for tax cheats who try to game the system and avoid contributing their fair share. Just imagine what we could do with the money that it would raise. This would be unprecedented investments in healthcare, in universal childcare, in education, in transitioning to a renewable energy economy, in affordable housing so that people could live and wake up every day knowing that they were able to provide for their families, that the next generation would do better than our generation. For way too long, our society has been rigged to favor the wealthy. This is a solution that would give average people a fair shake. And that's why the majority of Americans support our Ultra Millionaires tax. Poll after poll has found that voters agree that it is time for the rich to pay their fair share. In fact, that is patriotic to do so. It's not just Democrats, it's moderates, independents, even a plurality of Republicans who support a wealth tax. So let's get this done. Let's tax the wealthiest to just pay their fair share. And when we do, we deliver for families, for our communities, and for our country. Thank you all very much.
Next, our Vice Chair of the Patriotic Millionaires, Stephen Prince, will tell you what he thinks about paying part of his 51st million.
You know, it just constantly amazes me that we even have to have this discussion. That we have to talk about equality and fairness, political and economical, housing, healthcare, and everything, when this country is the wealthiest country on the planet in the history of mankind, and that we have as many people in this country that don't have housing, don't have healthcare, don't eat, they're food insecure. It's just astounding to me that we're talking about this. You know, I get accused by all my conservative friends about the fact that I'm a socialist. And I tell them, I said, you know what? America has become a socialist country in that we're socialist as it relates to the wealthy. All the benefits and all the rules and the regulations that we're creating in these buildings are benefiting we wealthy people. And then they talk about, well, let's cut taxes, and you guys that are business starters and entrepreneurs, you'll go out and do more. And I just say, that's a bunch of bull. We people can't help ourselves. We start companies. We grow companies. We hire people. It's a genetic trait that we can't stop it. And so giving me a tax break does not make me a harder working, more effective, more efficient business guy. That's just who I am. And don't ever forget the fact that I was born a white guy. Being born a white guy in this country is a huge benefit, and it's not talked about enough. But those are the kinds of things we have to concentrate on. You know, it's the shiny object issue. What the right continues to do is they hold up this bright, shiny object, and it might be gun control, border control, build a wall, abortion, all these other things they talk about. The truth of the matter is, it's about the money. It has nothing to do with those issues. Most of we wealthy people raise our kids in a gated community anyway. We sent our kids to private schools. I didn't. My kids went to public schools all their lives. But the point is they're throwing us off the track when really what they want to do is what we've done for the last 50 years. In my adult lifetime, we have gone from a country that was structured where it was relatively equal, When I was a kid, 9% of all the income, or young man, 9% of all the income in America went to the top 1%. 9%. Today, we get 24% of the distributed income in the country every year. So we've gone from a little less than a dime to a little less than a quarter in my lifetime. It's not sustainable. We can't do that forever. Sooner or later, the cows are going to come home, and it is not going to be a pretty thing. What we're doing is what has happened all over the history of mankind. The poor and the working class are not going to bring this country down. It's the wealthy that'll bring the country down. Sooner or later, the working class are going to get sick and tired of what's going on in America, and they're going to rise up, as they should. So I'm just saying that we need to stay focused on the real deal. We wealthy people have got to realize we don't need it all. We really don't. We can share. And tax policy is the only thing that will fix it. No one is going to, by their own volition, write a bigger check. I have people tell me that all the time. Well, Stephen, why don't you just write a bigger check? Number one, I'm not stupid. Secondly, it won't fix the problem. You take any one of these guys, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or any one of them, and they write 100% of their wealth to the IRS, it still won't fix the problem. The problem is systemic. We have it's all created back here, and for the last 50 years we've been restructuring tax policy so that all the value accrues to we wealthy people. And sooner or later we're going to have to fix it. And I say, let's start today. Let's get started today. So anyway, thanks for everybody being here. I appreciate it. Appreciate your listening to me ramble and roam. And I hope all of you have a beautiful day. Thank you.
All right, so we have two more representatives coming. They're running a bit behind, but so we're going to open it up for questions for the Patriotic Millionaires, if anyone has any. Morris, do you want to run this?
Sure. Thank you, by the way, for doing this. And it's incredibly patriotic what you're talking about in terms of being willing to pay more taxes. I think, Myron, you started out this press conference by saying you want to pay more taxes. And so I represent a group called the Committee on Least Prosperity. And we have these pledges. How many of you are millionaires here? I know you are, a number of you. And we're hoping that each one of you will sign this pledge, which says that you will pay a 90% tax, just as you're endorsing today, because you say it's your patriotic duty to do so. And so I'm hoping that each one of you will sign this pledge that says I'm willing to pay a 90% tax, because it's your, as you said, it's your patriotic.
So let me understand. You want me to do that individually, or you want me to do it as a part of policy?
Yeah, let's get people. I've got pens. Let's sign these. You know,
Well, you're not answering
so
my
we can
question.
solve
You
the
want me to do it
problem.
as policy, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I
we
think.
want. You all said that you wanted to pay. You said you wanted
Yeah, I think.
to pay
Yeah,
more
I think
taxes.
we want to change the system.
No. You said you want to pay more taxes. So
We want to
don't you
change
think
the
it's
law
your duty?
so that it
Yeah.
becomes
I'm
required.
sorry. Don't you think it's your patriotic duty to pay more taxes? If
We're saying that the voluntary paying of more is not going to answer the
but
question.
you all are.
Yeah,
millionaires.
sorry, we got another.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
because you
Thank
guys
you.
are millionaires,
It's,
and you're saying you
and
don't want to
it's
pay more taxes.
disingenuous
Wait, you
to
do or you
say
don't
that
want
a
to pay more taxes?
voluntary thing.
What?
Yes, it's disingenuous to say
Why?
that a voluntary change to the law is going to make a structural difference.
But you
because
can
we
make
will
you
make
will
only
make a huge
voluntary.
difference.
You didn't listen to anything Stephen just said.
Okay, so you don't want to.
It won't change
Did you pay
anything.
attention to what Stephen just said?
hear what he said?
I said that the only it would be stupid for me to write it.
Yeah, we're gonna go focus.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The legislation I'm talking about, does it affect any of you?
Yes. Yes.
By
Yes.
Yes.
wealth number?
Yes.
We're all hit by
Well,
this.
you invoke the patriotism of the American people, and I think he's got a good question. Aren't you hypocrites if you're not paying more?
You needed to listen to what Stephen said, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who taped it today who'll let you do that.
And a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So don't you think you need to lead by example?
Well, I think what we need to do is to change the system. I'm sorry. I think what we're trying to do is to change the system so that the wealthy people, we're not.
What is your personal responsibility? You are invoking the patriotism of every American. What is your personal responsibility? Not the systemic responsibility, not the government's responsibility, your responsibility.
My responsibility is to try to change the system, and we are trying to do that. My responsibility is to try to change the system so that those people who earn more money pay higher taxes than those people who earn less money. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to run the country on the basis of everyone voluntarily paying whatever they want to. You couldn't run a country club that way, and we can't run a country that way.
You are. You're being very disingenuous because you've heard the counter argument and you're pretending you don't hear it. It's disingenuous.
I'm hearing what you're saying, and I understand the systemic argument. I don't understand the lack of
let me tell you what I tell. Are you going to listen to me respond? So I tell my children all the time that if I wrote a check for everything that I'm worth, and it would fix the problem, I would die and they would get nothing, because this country matters more than me and my children. And I would write a check for 100%, but you and I both know that it won't do a damn thing if I do that until the system's fixed. And if that's going to make you feel better that I tell you I'm going to do that, I'm still not going to do it because it's an idiotic concept. Listen, no. You've already got your mind made up, and there's nothing that I can do to change it, and I get that. I fully understand.
We just disagree.
What do you say to younger Americans who view the system as, you say, kind of broken, that, especially being the first generation that is likely to not have the same amount of wealth for the majority of Americans as previous generations, and parents that are like, it is likely that Gen Z will be the first generation who are turning their parents out that way. That, what do you say to people who are kind of, it's great to do policy changes and push for that, but your failure year over year since the Reagan administration and any sort of progressive wealth taxes, what do you say to those people who are very kind of disillusioned with the system?
It's not for nothing that you're starting with the Reagan administration, because the Reagan administration was the beginning of an assault on the capacity of the government to do anything that made a difference. If your generation had access, as it won't have, to Social Security, as it might not have to food stamps, to a decent public school structure, to infrastructure that works, to all the things that government has the capacity to do, delivering broadband into rural communities. I can go on and on. That isn't happening because we starved out our tax base by exempting wealthy people from paying into the system. What we're trying to do is to generate revenues into the tax system so that the government can do the things that Gen Z needs to happen in order to have a lively economy to build their lives into, to have an environmental future to build their lives into. That's what I say to Gen Z. They should be all for this.
Yeah. Can I also? I would also just add that I would just add that we failed you. And predecessors have failed you, but that's why we're trying to change. My name is Drew Pomerantz. I live in Los Angeles. We're trying to make the change now. And I would say to you and your generation that go out and tell people to support candidates that support these bills. Because if they vote for candidates that support these bills, that building might change, and that building then has a chance of doing something that will make your lives better, and maybe your generation will not end up where you see yourself going.
So having lived in the state of Tennessee for 40 years and started a business there and made what little money I've made in my life, I've known this gentleman from afar for a long time, Steve Cohen from Memphis, Tennessee, and he's here to speak to us today. Representative Cohen, thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. Thank you and good morning, and I don't want to be repetitive, but I might be because the facts are clear and they'd be consistent with everyone that would speak on this issue. Our tax system in the United States is woefully inequitable. The poor pay taxes every day. The rich put them in investments and pay them when they die, not going to their heirs and not being paid for future generations. Trump passed a tax code that gave billionaires lots and lots of tax advantages and tax opportunities and monies. But it didn't give it to the middle class as they said it would. It gave it to the upper class and the billionaires. It's time we had a more equitable tax system, and that's why I introduced a bill to tax billionaires at a proper rate, which they can indeed afford and which our country needs. When you need money, you go after the people who've benefited the most from your society, benefited most from your markets and your laws, and that's the billionaires. For those patriotic billionaires, millionaires, etc., who have joined this cause, I commend them. They are most commendable for coming and saying they will give their dollars to have a fairer country and a more equitable country with the systems and programs that we need for those that are in need. Franklin Roosevelt said, "You're judged not by what you do for those who have much, but what you do for those who have too little." That's what this bill would help do, is provide funding for those who have too little and take it from those who have reaped the great advantages that our society and our government has provided. So I hope we can pass the bill and have some equity. It's important for our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we have Congresswoman Porter coming in just a second. Do we have any more questions that are, yep.
Just to follow up on the earlier discussion, I'm wondering if someone can explain the progressiveness in the tax proposal. I understand not everyone is going to be paying 90%.
Yeah, we actually have our policy expert right here. Bob, do you want to talk about the income tax bracket structure for our proposal?
Sure. For the proposal.
Can you also explain how unearned gains would be taxed?
Sure. In our proposal, we would start with a 0% income tax rate for all income up to the real cost of living. The code would continue to be progressive from there, all the way up to the income over $100 million, where it would top out at a 90% marginal rate for income over $100 million. Excuse me? Million. 100 mil. Income over $100 million would be taxed at a 90% rate.
Income, not wealth.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks, Bob.
Okay.
Any other questions? We should be literally 1 or 2 minutes for Congresswoman Porter.
Are there any carve-outs for intergenerational assets? Maybe like some farms that are worth millions of dollars and other things that you can get into those types of ranges rarely, but they do get up there for families that maybe don't have that income level. So it's just income. It's not going to be any. Okay.
And the estate tax continues to have an exemption. That's quite ample.
Yeah.
Do you want to about about family farms, estates like that?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, he's adjusting his camera.
All right, we're good. Sorry for the delay. Congresswoman Porter should be here in just a
Sorry, I was
second.
going to. Are you? But you are there. I was just making sure that this is largely going to be targeted at just income rather than intergenerational assets like farms and other things that can get up to that sort of range, albeit rarely, but don't have necessarily the cash income at those levels.
Assets.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's talking about estate.
Well, I think you're confusing inheritances with income. Okay.
Yeah. That's all.
Okay.
Okay, I think we see her in the distance, so let's
Just
give it
so
1
you
second.
know. Sir?
There we go. Morris? Morris, do you want to... Yeah, do you want to come up and introduce her? She's walking. All right, we're good.
And ladies and gentlemen, for our next speaker, we have Representative Katie Porter from the state of California. And here's Katie.
Ready? All right, good morning. I'm Congresswoman Katie Porter from Orange County, and I'm out of breath. We do not have one tax system in this country. We have two. If you are a working American, you sit down before tax day, pull out your receipts, your pay stubs, and you do your own taxes, often paying a company for that software. Small business owners, they double check their paperwork to get it right. These Americans pay their fair shares for the investments we make in our country's future. That's one tax system. The other tax system is for the wealthiest Americans. Even though they benefit from these exact same investments in infrastructure, in education, they get away with paying pennies on the dollar. A number of big corporations pay zero in federal taxes. Simply put, the rest of us as taxpayers are subsidizing the ultra-wealthy. Today, you have heard a number of my colleagues talk about how tax rates for the wealthiest Americans are too low. And they are right. I want to highlight a different problem: tax cheats. As a champion for oversight, I know that what the law says on paper is not always the reality on the ground. The reality is that our country's wealthiest individuals do not pay the taxes they already owe under existing law. Official government estimates show that this tax gap will cost us $7 trillion over the next decade. 7 trillion with a T. Tax cheats can get away with it because they can employ armies of accountants and lawyers to obscure their true tax liability, and because they've lobbied Congress for decades to starve the IRS of the resources it needs to enforce the law, go after them, and enforce tax fairness. For Americans making regular wage and salary income, 99% of us fully pay our taxes. For people making partnership income or rental income, disproportionately the highest earners in our country, non-compliance can exceed over 1/2. Tax cheats rig the system to their benefit and to our detriment. Fortunately, there is a simple solution. We can fully fund the IRS, empowering it to go after cheaters. We can begin this work by investing $46 billion in IRS enforcement as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, which would close the tax gap by over $200 billion in the next decade. This is fiscally responsible policy that pays for itself. But in their very first legislative vote of this Congress, House Republicans tried to undo this policy and make it easier for the nation's ultra-rich to take advantage of all of the rest of us as taxpayers. The only people who benefit from the richest Americans cheating on their taxes are the people cheating on their taxes. Every person in this country who relies on federally funded roads to move people and goods, education to maintain a world-class workforce, research that generates life-saving technology, we should all be making these investments together because we all benefit from them. Instead, the ultra-wealthy freeload off the rest of us, taxpayers who actually pay our fair share. If anything, Congress should take additional steps to close the tax gap even more. If you owe taxes under the law, you should have to pay them. I can't believe I have to say that. If you owe taxes under the law, you should have to pay them. And if you cheat, the IRS should catch you. I've been proud to back proposals like the billionaire minimum tax to raise taxes on the nation's richest households. I agree with my colleagues, the advocates here today, and the 3 in 4 Americans who believe that the ultra-wealthy should pay higher taxes. We need to change our underlying tax structure to make it more fair, and then we need to fully enforce that tax structure. We can't have real fairness without a robust enforcement. That is the only way that we can create a reality where we have only one tax system, in which every single one of us pays their fair share, instead of the status quo, where the wealthiest Americans play by their own set of rules. That's unacceptable, and I promise to fight till we have a fair tax system for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.